You are listening to continuing coverage of the trial of Chad Daybell from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast. Let's go back to the courtroom.
And Your Honor, this is photo 170DD as in Delta. And Agent, if you can describe what was going on in this photograph.
So we were finally able to remove those pieces that we saw in the last photo. And these were the first pieces of what ends up being Tylee Ryan that we were able to excavate. And you can see from the photos, it was difficult for us to excavate. And when we finally excavated it, these were the first pieces that we were able to say, these are human remains. And at this point, this was kind of our ending point, or we started wrapping up for the day. And so these human remains ended up going to the coroner. So they ended up going to the coroner's. The coroner removed them from the scene. And then at this point, we knew for sure that site we were just looking at, that's going to be Tylee Ryan's burial site. And that's where we're going to excavate. So we set up a good perimeter now, and we'll come back on June 10th and finish excavating that site and come up with a better strategy or plan to finish the excavation. At this point, it was kind of hard for the team, the entire team. We had more than the ERT team out there, all of law enforcement. It was just, we didn't know necessarily what we were dealing with up until this point. So it was nice to have that final confirmation that these are human remains. And now we kind of stopped for the day knowing that at least we've got the right site. We'll come back tomorrow and fresh, and we'll finish the excavation.
And Your Honor, this is photo 170BB as in Bravo. And Agent, is this just a closer up photo of the last?
Yeah, this is just a closer up photo of those bigger pieces that we were able to excavate that day. And it just shows kind of some of that charring pink flesh, what we were able to remove on June 9th, 2020. Kind of closed out our day with that burial.
And Agent, what do you see in this photo?
After we removed those larger pieces on June 9th, this is just the photo of what was left in the burial. So this is what it looked like once those bigger pieces were removed. And this would have been what we came back to on June 10th.
And for the record, that's 170LL. And Your Honor, this is 170CC. What was happening in this picture?
And I would just call this more of an exit photo. So now we've kind of wrapped things up for June 9th. And that's just kind of how we started. We were starting to put things away. And then we're getting ready to leave the scene for June 9th.
And Your Honor, this is 170EE as in Echo. Agent, what do you see in this photo?
This is going to be the morning of June 10th. So now we're back on scene, and we're one of our priorities, we have a lot of priorities, but one of the priorities for June 10th is going to be to finish the excavation of Tylee Ryan's burial site. And in this photo, you can see those orange stakes. The orange stakes is the perimeter I set up around Tylee Ryan's burial site. So that's going to be one of our main focuses for June 10th.
Agent, you had spoken earlier about sifters. Can you see where my mouse is located?
Yes.
Or pointer, I should say. Is that one of the sifting tools you used?
Yes, that's one of our wooden sifters. And on the inside of that, there's a wire mesh. So that's what the sifters look like.
Your Honor, this is photo 170FF. And Agent, what was going on in this photograph?
So this is just showing there's those orange stakes. So that's just outlining kind of the perimeter now of Tylee Ryan's burial site. And that's going to be where her remains are. Now we just need to do that process we've talked about, just kind of layer by layer excavation. And we're just going to try to note anything significant that we find as we go layer by layer down. And we're just going to try to show that story of how we find her inside that burial site.
Your Honor, this is photo 170GG. Agent, what did you observe here?
And now you can see on this one, on one side of the burial site, we were able to excavate pretty deep. and you can start to see a green melted 5-gallon bucket. And then at the very bottom, we finally see something identifiable to us, which was Tylee's skull. And that's what you're basically seeing. On the top portion of that photograph, just something to note was the soil on the top side was, there was a harder substance to it. And I don't know what that was, but it just made it difficult for us to excavate. And what we end up doing is and I don't know if it was concrete or a quickcrete or what it was, but it made it hard to excavate. So we end up getting the backhoe and kind of pulling back that hard substance. And that's kind of what I wanted to show or talk about in that one.
Your Honor, this is photograph 170HH. And Agent, what did you observe here?
Now you can see that we've got around the entire human remains. And this is just a good, we're pedestaling out these human remains. And it's just something really unique. They don't look like human remains. What we end up finding is just kind of this melted mass of remains. And you can see that you can kind of see the edge of the melted green bucket on this photo. And we finally did get to the other side where that harder substance soil was. We got past that, but we're able to at least give you guys an idea of how these remains were buried.
And Your Honor, this is photo 170II. And Agent, what did you observe here?
This is just a close-up of that mass of remains. And initially, when we were trying to excavate from the top, not knowing what it was, this is just a good example of kind of why we didn't know what it was. We were trying to excavate this. It felt like it was organic material, but we just couldn't. It didn't make sense to us. Like, this doesn't look like human remains, but it's not dirt. I mean, that was the top part we were trying to get through, and we couldn't make sense of it.
And Your Honor, this is photo 170KK. Agent, what did you observe in this?
And this is just close-up photos of what was identifiable to us. So anytime we see something that we can identify with, we just naturally want to get good photos of that. So this is just closer up shots, the best we could get of that melted green 5-gallon bucket and the skull that was at the very bottom.
And Agent, if you can see my pointer, is this the skull you're referring to?
Yes.
And Your Honor, this is 170JJ. Agent, what is this?
This is just another close-up as best we could. Again, we're trying to get deep in that hole or the burial and get a close-up as best we can in place of that skull. And that's what you're seeing.
Your Honor, this is 17000. Agent, what was this?
And then this is just the human remains, the massive melted remains. At some point, we just had to make the decision. We've excavated as best we could. We've shown everything we can. Now we just need to try to remove those remains. So when the team got in there to remove those remains, they fell apart. But this is just showing that burial with the remains removed.
When you say they fell apart, how did that happen? What was going on when they fell apart?
Well, just as a team of people tried to lift that pedestaled out mass of remains, it literally just fell to pieces. And so then just imagine us all trying to pick up those pieces and put them into a body bag that was placed close by.
Your Honor, this is photo 170NN. Agent, what was this?
And then this is the coroner's body bag that was nearby that burial. And then these are those pieces that were then placed in the coroner's body bag.
Your Honor, 170MM. Agent, what was this?
So once we've removed all of the human remains that we could see in from the burial, we had the anthropologist just go through the remains just to give us kind of a filled inventory of what remains do we have? Does it look like we have everything? As a team leader, we just want to make sure, could there be other burials on the property? Do we have everything? And so the assessment was we have everything that we need from the one burial. And so that's kind of what this was. It was the anthropologist coroner kind of going through the pieces just to give us some feedback as to if we have what we need.
Your Honor, the 170PP. Agent, what is this a photo of?
This is just a closer up photo now of those bricks. So now once we've decided, hey, the human remains were here, this was the burial, let's go ahead and collect those bricks. We still couldn't say that those bricks were on top of Tylee Ryan's grave, but they were close enough. And after what we saw at JJ's grave, we decided to collect those as evidence just in case.
Your Honor, this is this photo 170QQ. And Agent, what did you see here?
This was just at the very end after we were done collecting the human remains. We had the backhoe just go a little deeper in the burials in each of them, but this was Tylee's. We had the backhoe just go a little deeper and a little bit wider at the burial just to ensure that we had everything and we didn't see anything else unusual in the area. And then once the backhoe was done, then we covered the area back up. So we put the animal remains back in and we covered the entire area with backfilled all of the holes that we dug.
Agent, what do you see on the screen?
I see Faro scanner diagrams at the bottom, and then over to the right, there's our ERT photographs in a line.
And can you describe the relationship between these photographs and the Faro scanning that is pictured?
So the ERT photographs are to your right on this screen. And as we click on each one of the photographs, it's just going to show it's when you click on it, that photograph is going to be blown up in the middle. And then it's going to show a layer. They'll start with layer A. And then when we click on that layer, you're going to get a line in the bottom Faro scanner diagram. And all it's going to show us in the Faro scanner diagram is just an approximate depth for where we are at on that ERT photo, that layer.
Okay. And the numbers going down the middle is that?
And that's the numbers going down the middle is just a depth measurement, and it's going by feet. So 0 to 1 foot, 2 foot to 3 foot.
And at this level, it was approximately 2 feet.
Approximately 2 feet at layer C.
And at layer D?
Just under 2 feet.
And at layer E when it was removed?
Still just under 2 feet.
Okay. Agent, I'm going to call your attention to what's labeled here as the shed or barn. What is the jury seeing in this photo? And I apologize, Your Honor, that's 170WWW.
Oh, this is a picture of that garage or barn. And if you were looking from some of those vantage points from the residence, if you walk out of the residence, the back door of the residence, you would see this garage door. So this would be the first big entryway from the residence. So we're about to walk into, it's an overall photo showing the big garage door as you walk into the garage or barn.
And what do you see here?
This is another what we call overall photo of that garage area as you walk inside. And then over to the right, things of interest will be the tools that we're going to be looking at inside this garage. And one of the keys is for me, what I'm interested in, the ERT team's interested in, or law enforcement's interested in a burial site, is what tools could be used to bury somebody.
And Your Honor, that's 170QQQ. And what did you see here, Agent?
As you walk to that big garage door, which you can see in the photo, and if you just turn right, then you're going to see the tools lined up on the right side of that garage, or it's going to be the south side of the property.
And Your Honor, that's 170PPP. And what did you see here, Agent?
And this is just a medium shot now of those tools on that same side of the garage. We're just getting a little closer to them.
Right. And that's, Your Honor, that's photo 170000.
And just to inquire, Mr. Wood, are we through the graphic imagery at this point? Or is it coming back in?
It would be coming back in. Could we have a very brief sidebar?
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Counsel. On the sidebar there, we just discussed scheduling for today and where the state thought they might want to break for the day. We're going to continue on and bypass the mid-afternoon break so long as the jurors are all okay with that for now. And I think there's kind of an estimate that maybe here in 30 minutes or so we'll be concluding to break till Monday. Is that where you think things will be, Mr. Wood?
Somewhat around there. And Your Honor, I appreciate that. Just based on the court's earlier request of when we'd be breaking, I think that would probably be the best place.
Okay. So if you want to just continue on with direct, and given that with our scheduling, is there going to be any more of the graphic photos today?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so we can go ahead and just have the monitors or the projection if you publish anything further at this point, and then we'll go back to that further on Monday.
I don't recall, Your Honor, if I had labeled this picture. It's 170NNN.
Okay, not yet. So QQQ, I think, was the last one I had.
And so this is 170NNN. And Agent, can you just describe what you documented there?
So all of those pictures of photos of tools we just looked at, these are the ones that were against that right side of the garage or the south side of that garage or barn. These are the ones we took as evidence, and these are most likely that could have been used in a burial.
And Your Honor, this is 170MMM as in Michael. Agent, what was this?
This is one of those tools we just saw that was taken as evidence, and it's just a pick.
Your Honor, 170LLL. Agent, is that the same pick?
That's the same pick we just saw that was taken as evidence, and this just shows some of the reasons we took it as evidence because of that debris you can see on the blade of that pick and some of the other black marks, on that pick.
You have your pointer now. Can you point out what you're referencing there?
There's some kind of debris on the blade of this pick, and you can kind of see the black, potentially char marks on this pick.
Grounds? Sustain.
Okay.
Just to that part of the response, Mr. Wood.
Your Honor, this is 170KKK. Agent, what is this a photograph of?
This is another closer up picture of two of the shovels that were taken as evidence. And again, you can see that why they were taken as evidence, because the shovels are dirty. So it appears that they were used.
Your Honor, this is photo 170UUU. And Agent, what was the significance of that photograph?
As you walk into the garage, and if you make a left, these are tools that were collected as evidence that were from the left side of that first entryway of the garage. So we're on the west side of the garage, and then as you walk in the garage right here, you make a left. These tools were in this area. And obviously we're taking tools that could have been used to do something to our human remains we found.
And Your Honor, this is 170V as in Victor. Agent, what is this a photograph of?
This is just an overall photo of some of the tools that were in the west side of this garage. And we didn't take all of these tools as evidence, but we just wanted a picture of a lot of the different tools.
And this is 170SSS. Agent, what was this a photograph of?
This is just an overall picture of some of the tools that were on the east part of the garage. And these tools were in the southeast corner of this garage. And you can see the man door right here. That door was located on the south side right there.
This is photograph 170TTT. What was this an image of?
These are those same tools in that same area, from the shovel over to the hoe. These tools were the ones that we actually collected as evidence, just because they could have been tools we thought could have been used to do our burials or other physical damage.
And Your Honor, I need to make a correction on the labeling.
Okay.
This was image 170TTT, and the last image shown was 170SSS. And Agent, Your Honor, this is 170RRR. What was this an image of?
These are bricks that were similar to the bricks that we found near Tylee Ryan's burial site. And we found these bricks over by this shed, and we took a sample of those bricks also.
Your Honor, the court has States Exhibits 173 and 172. We'd ask that they be their physical evidence. We ask that they be brought out, and I believe they'll be coming in by way of stipulation.
Okay, you've
No objection, Judge.
all right. The defense has reviewed both exhibits 173 and 172. They've been offered and are admitted. I'll instruct the bailiffs to retrieve those and they can be brought into the courtroom.
And while they retrieve those, Agent, what did you do with the tools you collected?
We turned everything over to the Rexburg PD at the end of the both days. So we packaged them on scene and then turned them over to Rexburg PD.
And it probably is obvious, but when you say PD, is that referring to the police department?
Police department.
Okay. In Your Honor, from my understanding, we were going to ask Agent Daniels to approach this table and give him a handheld microphone.
Okay. The witness can approach the table. If you'll stand, of course, on the side furthest from the jurors, facing the jurors, I guess, would be the appropriate place, and we'll get a microphone for you to continue testifying.
Agent, do you recognize these states exhibits 173 and 172?
I do.
What are they?
It's the pick from one of the photos we just showed you, and it's the yellow and black handled shovel from one of the photos we just showed you.
And can you unwrap the pick and show it to the jury?
Can you identify which exhibit is that?
Oh, I apologize. That is 172.
So this was the pick that we found as you walked into that garage. And then to your right, this was the pick that was to the right. And originally when we found it was in a crate. And then when we removed it from the crate, it was one of the ones we lined up. And you saw a picture of it when it was lined up with a few other items. And we took them as evidence.
And Agent, without stating anything conclusory about what's on that pick, what about that pick drew your attention?
Typically, when we look for tools to take, we'll look for tools that we typically use for burials. And I already kind of mentioned to you some of those tools. We use rakes, shovels, picks, and other items. So this is a pick. So we'll kind of scrutinize those more. And then this one was, we'll just say dirty. So it was dirty. And so that was something that drew our attention. And that would just give it, the lab would be easier to test a dirty item. So those are things that we would look for.
Thank you. And then if you can unwrap States Exhibit 173 and show that to the jury, if you can explain what that is and why you collected that item.
So again, if you walk into that garage, through that big garage door, off to your right, this was one of the tools that was up against the south side of that garage. And then again, it's just a tool that we typically use when we're excavating, and a tool that could be used for a burial. And then we had already excavated and processed the fire pit. And so it just seemed dirty, a tool that we would be interested in for this scene.
Thank you. And it could be wrapped up again. And Your Honor, that actually went a little faster than what I had anticipated. If leave it at the discretion of the court, I believe I could finish up my direct by 2:30. If the court would like us to do that, I'll leave that up to the court. I understand that we'd still have to bring this witness back for cross. So however the court wants to do that is fine with the state.
Why don't you, well, I guess I can leave it up to you somewhat as well, Mr. Wood. I don't want to, would it make sense to go another 10 or 15 minutes? Or would that just put it too close to when you want to conclude your line of question?
I think it would probably take about another 40.
Okay. Well, given the schedule and concerns we had today, I think what we'll do is go ahead and recess for the afternoon then, given the time. I appreciate you inquiring on that, Mr. Wood. We will go ahead and break until Monday then, and we'll continue with testimony of Agent Daniels on Monday. As we break for the day, first, I'd like to thank those in attendance for complying with the courtroom conduct order throughout today. And for ladies and gentlemen of the jury, before you break for the weekend, again, I will give you the admonishment you've heard many times before, which is to please not discuss this case at all amongst yourselves or with anyone else. You're not permitted to do that until you begin your deliberations. In addition, avoid any kind of investigation into the case or review of any of the facts of the case from outside sources. If you see the case being reported in the media or otherwise, please avoid paying attention to that. And we'll ask you about that as you return Monday morning with your daily juror affirmation that you've complied. So thanks for your attentiveness today. We're going to recess for the afternoon and we'll begin again on Monday morning with our calendar starting at 8:30.
All right, please.
There's more to come in the trial of Chad Daybell. Press subscribe so you don't miss any of our continuing coverage right here from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.